Hi, we are back with the PLP and again the mathematical foundation, and we are looking at module 1.23, dividing integers. In division, it is the opposite of multiplication. So if we say 3 multiplied by 4 is equal to 12, then if division is the opposite, then it will be 12 divided by 4, and we can do that again on a number line. For multiplication, we said, remember, we start at 0 on the number line and we will move in the direction or how many times we're going to hop, like we said. So in this case, we start by 0 and we're going to use it as 3 spaces, and we're going to have to hop 4 times. So this 3 tells me how many spaces, 1, 2, 3, and this 4 tells me how many hops I'm going to do. So that's going to be 3 spaces, 4 hops, and that will end up at 4, 12, right? So here's my 4 hops, 1, 2, 3, 4 hops, 3 spaces. So that means for division, it will be the opposite direction. First of all, we start at the number here. Remember, we started at 0. So for division, we must start at the number, which is 12. We will hop then so many spaces, and we will end up at 0. And when we end up at 0, we'll have to count how many spaces we have hopped. So the answer here on the number line will not be what we end up with the number, but rather how many times we hopped to get to 0. So if you illustrate that, we're starting at 12, we're going to have 4 spaces because that's the 4 here. So it's 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going back to 0. That's why we're going in this direction. 4 spaces, and we are going to see if we get up to 0, how many times did we hop. So it's 4 spaces, we end up at 8. Another 4 spaces, we end up at 4. Another 4 spaces, we end up at 0, where we want to be. So now we're counting how many hops did it take us to get to 0. So that is 1, 2, 3 hops, and that number of hops is going to be my answer to my division problem. How many times did we hop the 4 spaces to get to 0? We hopped 3 times. I hope this is clear, and it's very easy to use the number line to find the answer. Let's try another one. We've got 10 divided by 5. So remember, now in division, you have to go to the number 10. You have to move 5 spaces and see how many times you will hop to get to 0. So if we illustrate that, we start at 10. We want 5 spaces, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We end up at 5, and we need to now take another 5 spaces in order for us to get to 0. So now we've got another 5 spaces that we hopped. How many spaces did we hop? We hopped 2 spaces. So my answer is then equal to 2. Remember, now again I will repeat, for multiplication you start at 0. You hop how many times? Either 3 times with 4 spaces or 4 times with 3 spaces. In division, it's the opposite. You go to the number, you then hop the 4, the spaces would be the 4, and then you count how many times you will hop to get to 0. Remember this now, it's a little bit different from multiplication. Again, we need to practice and we need to try to do this. So here again, when we did this, we get rules from division coming out, just like multiplication. A positive 12 divided by a positive 3 gave me a positive 4. So that's our first rule. It's the same as multiplication with just dividing sign now. So a positive divided by the positive is a positive. Like in multiplication, we also have this rule. We have a positive divided by a negative. The answer is going to be a negative, just like multiplication. And when we have a negative divided by a positive, just like multiplication, the answer is also going to be a negative. And like multiplication, when we have 2 negatives and divide, then the answer must be a positive. So the rules for division and the rules for multiplication are exactly the same, except for the sign will be a division sign and a multiplication sign. So these rules for division must be known. You must study them, you must know them. Now try to apply them in our exercise. Again, we have to practice and practice and practice, and try these ones. They are 7 divided by 7. So remember, on a number line you can indicate them, and try to find these answers using the number line. If you do not remember, go back, rewind the video and see how it is done.